We've all hit that specific wall with AV setups. You
Yeah.
want the rack in the closet or the computer in the office, but the big screen needs to be way over in the living room.
Exactly.
And a standard HDMI cable well, it gives up the ghost after about 25 feet.
Right. And once you cross that line, you're usually dealing with signal degradation, sparkling pixels,
Or spending a fortune.
or spending a fortune on these thick, active HDMI cables that are a total nightmare to snake through a conduit.
Which brings us right to the focus of today's deep dive, the NTI ST-C6HD-150-LC. It's a low-cost HDMI extender, and it promises to push that high-def signal up to 150 feet.
And the real magic trick here isn't a better HDMI cable.
No?
Is getting rid of the HDMI cable entirely for that long run.
Okay, so how does it actually work then?
It's a balloon system, basically. You
Yeah.
get two little boxes.
Yeah.
There's a local unit at your source, your computer, your Blu-ray player, and a remote unit at the display.
And the bridge between them.
Is a single, standard CP5E or CT6 Ethernet cable.
That is the massive infrastructure advantage right there. I mean, running a flexible, thin CT6 cable through a wall is infinitely easier than trying to pull a rigid HDMI head through tight drywall.
Infinitely. And it's much cheaper per foot.
Yeah.
But it's important to be clear. This isn't HDMI over IP.
Right. That's a crucial distinction.
You are not plugging this into your network switch or your router. It just uses the copper inside the networking cable to create a direct point-to-point link.
So it's like a dedicated lane for your video. And because it's pushing all that bandwidth up to 150 feet, or what, 46 meters?
Yeah, about that.
It has to be an active system, right? You can't just rely on the power from the HDMI port itself.
No way. You need juice at both ends. Both the transmitter and the receiver take 5 volts DC and they draw about 5 watts each. That external power is what lets it boost the signal enough to cross half a football field without losing any integrity.
Let's talk about that integrity, because usually when you hear extender, your mind immediately goes to compression artifacts or, lag.
A valid concern. But the specs here are really solid. It supports full 1080p and computer resolutions up to 1920 by 1200.
So WUXGA, no compromises there.
None. And it preserves all the important metadata, too. We're seeing support for 3D video, full HDTCP compliance for copy protection, and 36-bit deep color.
And that deep color support is vital, isn't it? If you strip that out, you get that awful color banding.
That's it, those ugly steps in a gradient, like a blue sky. This system keeps that perfectly smooth. It also handles the audio side Dolby True HD, DTS-HD master audio.
So all the lossless stuff, basically if your HDMI source sends it, this box delivers it. But my favorite feature I saw in the specs is this auto equalization.
Ah, that's the set it and forget it feature. It's so clever.
How does it work?
Well, copper resists electricity differently at 20 feet than it does at 150 feet. Without equalization, a really long run might look soft or have sync issues. This unit automatically detects the cable length and adjusts the signal gain to match.
Super smart. However, this is a deep dive, so we have to get into the details. There are some really specific constraints on the cable itself, right? You can't just grab an old patch cord from your junk drawer.
This is probably the biggest point of failure for installers. The specs are explicit. You have to use solid, straight-through cables that are wired to the TIEIA 568B standard.
And solid is the key word there.
Absolutely. Most of those cheap patch cables are stranded wire. It's flexible, but it has much higher attenuation, which is signal loss. For a run this long, you need solid core copper to carry that data reliably.
Okay, another thing to watch out for.
Yeah, display compatibility. They specifically warn against using this with DVI monitors. Even if you use an adapter, the signaling differences will probably cause handshake issues. So stick to native HDMI displays.
And maybe check your environment. The operating temp bottoms out at 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're thinking of running a screen to an uninsulated patio in Minnesota,
You might have a problem in January. Or you could just keep the little receiver box inside where it's warm.
good point.
But for international setups, they do make it easy. You can order it with US, Euro, UK, or Australian plugs. It travels well.
And the price point for all this is, what, $105?
$105, yeah.
When you compare that to a 150-foot active optical HDMI cable, plus the labor of installing that thing, the value proposition here is pretty aggressive.
And you get a 2-year warranty. It completely decouples your content source from your viewing experience. It gives you so much freedom in your layout.
Which leaves us with a question for you to consider. If the walls and wires no longer dictated your setup, if you could put a screen 150 feet away from your computer with zero quality loss, where would you actually put it?
Just make sure you have a power outlet waiting for it when it gets there.
Yeah, good point. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.